Welcome everybody to the, I don't even know, what are we at? Probably 11th Texas MFM virtual meetup. I think we started this about, for those who don't know, right, we're all part of Multifamily Masters, national meetup brand. And for this chapter, right, we basically combined two chapters, right? We have the Dallas team as well as the Houston team. And, once COVID happened, I think probably May might have been our first one, right? We decided to basically, kind of move it to a combined national or combined Texas brand version of this, right? Where we kind of bring in quality speakers, quality content, and put on events like this. And so before we introduce, I know a lot of you are excited to kind of listen to some of the things that I think people don't hear enough about, right? Which is what happens behind the scenes. I think a lot of people really fixate on the buy side, which is, really it's the sexier side of the business, right? It's the more exciting side. You're talking to investors, you're hunting for deals, but really we all know that the deals are made on the performance side. And so I think it's kind of an area that not enough people get to know about. And so we figured, hey, we put one on about asset management and kind of property management, right? And so two speakers that we know very well, we're excited to have them on. But before we kind of do that, I guess we'll do a quick introduction on myself and kind of the rest of the team. So for those of you that don't know me, please reach out to me and get to know me, because I feel like I want to get to know everybody. My name is Ferris. I help run Disrupt Equity along with my partner, Ben. We as a company have properties throughout Texas and Georgia, and we are vertically integrated. We have our own management company as well as some other ancillary businesses. And, we help run the Houston chapter. So we're hoping to kick off the Houston chapter, probably not April, but we'll probably kick it off in starting May. Maybe we'll double down and make a decision, Ben, here and start it in April, but we hope to see some of you in person soon. But that's probably it for me. Ben, you want to go next?
Man, you did such a great job at introing. I don't know what else to say, man. We're the dynamic duo that is Disrupt Equity. We are based in Houston, Texas, with deals throughout Texas and in Georgia. We also like Florida. So for those that are looking in Florida, please keep us in mind. We do partner on everything that we do. So, just to kind of reiterate, this asset management, property management, I'm glad to see we have a good attendance, because this stuff is important, folks. Right. Ferris really touched on a good point that I want to just drive home. The sexy part of the business is raising money, unit count, getting big deals under contract and closing stuff. Right. But the real job starts when you close the deal, and you need to have the right asset management team and have the right property management team in place, all working towards a common goal for these things to be successful, because that's how you're going to make the money. So, please drop questions. We've got some questions for them. We're going to throw them some curveballs. I know both of them are capable of taking them on. I won't do too many, but, if you guys have specific questions, I think the Q&A portion of this is probably going to be the most important part. So we'll try to keep our stuff short and, drop your questions in the chat box, and we'll kind of go from there. But, to go ahead and pass the baton on to Mr. Anton.
Hi, everyone. Anton Madley, co-founder and CEO of Peak Financing. We help syndicators and other investors with financing commercial real estate, including multifamily. So we help a lot of syndicators in that space, based in Dallas. That strange accent is from Switzerland, but I've been living in Texas now for almost 15 years. As Ben said, asset management and property management is absolutely crucial, because we help with the financing side. We see the deals after they close, month after and years after, and we see a lot of deals that are struggling, right? So Ben and Ferris know I have a list, and we monitor some of the deals that are struggling, because these are the most interesting to me. Not just because there are potential opportunities down the road, but also just to see what is the reason why they are struggling. Why was the underwriting done incorrectly initially? Was it an asset management error? Was it a market error? Sometimes the market is an issue, but very often asset management may also play a role into that in the initial judgment of that market. And obviously also the property management. So these two combined are so crucial. And I would say, from what we have seen over the last 10 years, right, we are now in the 10th year of a boom market in multifamily. the lack of proper asset management and property management has covered up a lot of errors and mistakes by both asset managers and property managers. Now, as things get a little bit tighter, margins are getting tighter, we have seen more and more really where the difference comes in between the good and the great and the not so good asset managers and property managers. So I'm really excited to have Jackie and Neil on today.
Yeah, man. We appreciate it. Ronnie, where are you hiding at, man? King of Clubhouse. Woo, Mr. Ronnie Phillip.
What's going on, everyone? Thanks for attending. Name is Ronnie Phillip. I'm with the Kingly Group. We're a real estate private equity firm based in Dallas, Texas. We focus on large A and B multifamily across the Sun Belt region. Currently have deals in Texas and Georgia, and happy to have a panel on asset management and property management. We got some of the best in the industry, and Neil and Jackie. I've worked with them directly for several years, and great panel. So happy to be here.
All right, thanks, buddy. Do we have John on? I don't know. I know John was on vacation.
Yep, I'm here.
All right, buddy. How you doing, man?
I'm doing good.
All right.
Good evening, everyone. John Montero, I'm based here in Frisco, Texas. I am the founder of Texas Multifamily Investor Network, close to 7,000 members. So if you aren't part of the network, it's free and with lots of good conversations and data being shared amongst the group. Reach out to me. I'm happy to get you added to the list. I am a deal sponsor and a developer. All of our deals are here in Texas, DFW, San Antonio, and Houston. We have 4,300 doors under management. We're closing on another 520 doors this month, and a bunch more in the pipeline. So happy to be here and look forward to learning from the best in the business. So I'll just hand it off to the group.
Thanks, John. We appreciate it, buddy. All right, Mr. Ferris, you want to kick us off, man?
All right. So as everybody mentioned, we all love and are excited about asset management, property management. And so our guests today, kind of really experts in both of those sides. And so we're going to go ahead and kind of maybe let them introduce themselves. I'm a big fan of letting people introduce themselves because it's less work for me. But actually, I think that people do a better job also introducing themselves. And so with that said, I think, Neil, you want to go first, and then we'll let Jackie go next.
Sure. So for those who do, I say the best for last. That's right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So for those who don't know me, my name's Neil Bertrand. I've been in multifamily for going on 23 years now. I've worked for 4 of the largest firms, management firms in the country. 2 of those were owner operators. Have been a VP of operations, a VP of asset management, VP of acquisitions, and I'm currently VP of acquisitions and asset management for REIT Group based in Austin. We are a vertically integrated firm. And thanks for, thanks to the guys asking me to do this.
Heck yeah, man. Appreciate you.
All right, Jackie, you want to go next?
Oh, you got to unmute yourself. Come on. That's a rookie mistake. Hey, Jackie, you got to unmute yourself.
There you go.
There you go. There you
I
go.
got it, man. I got it. So, it's funny. So, I'm Jackie Jackson. I'm the president of Disrupt Management. We put Disrupt Management together about a year ago. I created a management company for owners, by owners. I've got over 25 years of experience managing diverse portfolios, pretty much across all the areas of the real estate spectrum. But my core focus has been multifamily. So I've managed portfolios from up to 10K or more. So I've had the pleasure of working for some of the largest management companies in the nation, but I've also had the pleasure of working with individual owners as well. So, and I know what you're thinking, 25 years, and the answer is yes, I did start when I was 10. So, yeah, but
that's my joke. Come on.
Great answer. Ben's been bald since he was born, I think. All right.
No, well, I wanted to mention something. They're not patting themselves on the back enough, right? Neil and Jackie, very big integral part of us growing over the last few years, and we appreciate them. They both have property management and asset management experience, right? So one of the questions that we will be kind of diving into is, what the heck is the difference between the two? So, actually, let's just go ahead and kick it off.
I was actually thinking that was literally the first question I think I want to add. And let me reframe it a little bit differently, Ben, is ultimately, I want to ask each of you, what is the role of property management? What is the role of asset management? Right. So that's kind of the question. I'm going to talk for another 5 seconds to give you guys 5 seconds to think about it. I think my 5 seconds is up. So let's see. Neil, you want to go first?
You're muted, buddy.
Rookie mistake. No.
Rookie mistake. You're trying to make me not feel bad.
Think of asset management, the asset manager as being the full cycle person, right? They're involved in the deal from underwriting and acquisition, creating the business plan, overseeing performance, all the way through disposition. So they're more focused on the financial side of the operations, looking at things like a midstream analysis to see if we can sell early and achieve the initial goal returns. Whereas property management is more the day-to-day operations, really boots on the ground. In property management, it's a people business, right? Because you have to have very strong, qualified, capable people because they spend every day working with people, which are your residents. So it's more full cycle, whereas property management, we usually come in at the due diligence period and then operations.
All right. Jackie, what's your answer?
Yeah, well, yeah, he took my answer, but no, just kidding. Well, I mean, yes, I mean, it's day to day for on the operations side. Recruiting, finding the best performance driven teams on the property, figuring out the best way to attract and retain the best residents. So just the overall operations from, A to Z. And on the management side, we do get into, how do we focus on revenue? How do we best, price the property units in the market to maximize revenue and growth? But ours is more like, day-to-day operations and how do we operate the property to the best of our ability. And I think asset management is more strategic for the owner on how am I going to meet those investment goals? What's our exit strategy? And kind of a different level. And they work very good together. Some people have an issue with asset management and property management. I think they're two great roles that really help the owner.
And they are two very different roles.
Very different roles,
yeah, but it has to be a symbiotic relationship. I think you touched on one thing too, Jackie. Yes, they're doing two different things, but they kind of work in tandem together, right? Ultimately to the benefit of the ownership group and the property. Right, because you're all working towards a common goal. Yeah. So
I've come in a lot of times, and there's been like some grief between the asset management and property management. And I usually tell them, usually that's because we're not communicating well to them, or they're not getting what they need. So it could be a great relationship, and for the owner, and it's definitely a good thing to work together.
Love it. All right, Ferris, you mind if I ask a question, man?
Go for it.
I'm going to hop around. I think one thing, just because you guys have both been obviously in the property management side, and there's a lot of people that are looking to buy their first deal, maybe buying their second deal. You guys know our personal story. It was always a challenge for us to do that right. If I've done any mistakes in this business, it's I picked the wrong property management companies. So what would you guys say? And I'll put this back on Jackie, and then we'll go to Neil. What are like 3 questions that you should be asking your property management company to try to vet these people, to try to understand if they're actually going to be a good fit for your property?
If they're going to be a good fit, I mean, obviously you want to know, do they have experience with the type of asset that you're purchasing? And then really, what's the visibility? I mean, what kind of communication am I going to get? What type of tools and real-time information do I have to manage my to see those assets? Things like staff recruitment. How are you going to staff my property? Things of that nature really is drilling down into kind of what type of properties they manage and what their success has been. I mean, I think the best thing to find a property management company is referrals, because it's a really, it can be a really big mistake. You want to get all that out on the table beforehand, because so many clients come to me and I want them to answer their phone, or I want to be able to communicate. I mean, you need to lay it all out that there's a clear way to communicate. One of the big things is, how will my investment strategy be communicated to the supervisor and the on-site? How are those goals going to be communicated, and how are we going to track them? If they don't want to have the tough conversations and they gloss over those things, they're not the right management company for you.
Okay. Love it. Neil, same question, buddy. What are some of the things that you would ask a property management company on the deal?
First, who's your biggest client? Because that's who's getting the lion's share of the attention, and that's who's getting the A players inside that management company. Second, what asset types do they specialize in? There are companies that handle ABC deals, but by and large, every third-party property management company specializes in a unit type. And how many assets is each regional responsible for? The fewer the assets a regional has to take care of, the more attention that your asset's going to get.
Yeah, that's a good point. Mm-hmm.
No, I love it. Right. So we're switching gears to asset management now. So I'll start off with Neil on this question. Right. A lot of folks, as right, you've been participating in this for quite some time, are kind of starting off, right? They're not going to maybe be able to afford an asset manager. They have no experience or any context as to what an asset manager does. So for somebody that's starting off, what are 3 tips or 3 things that they should get comfortable with doing or understanding so they can at least have some asset management going on their deal?
Okay. I'll put this information in for everybody. I will put this information in the chat log, but there are 2 great books. Property Asset Management and Investment Real Estate Finance and Asset Management through the Institution of Real Estate. These books are $45, $50 on Amazon. Buy those and read through them. Also, take courses by your local apartment association, courses that are part of the Certified Apartment Portfolio Supervisor designation. And in IREM, the Institute of Real Estate Management has a week-long asset management track that it's probably $1,500 if you're not a member, but it's worth every penny. Because that 1-week course will take you through some of the things I mentioned earlier, such as evaluating the deal, the market analysis, midstream analysis. I mean, it's really a great place to start.
Love it. Jackie, same question.
Yeah, I mean, I think really for an asset, they don't have an asset management, it's all about really the revenue. How are they selecting my rents? How do they know what's going on the market? I mean, so many companies, they just, they take the easy route and they pick the lowest rent. So knowing how they're pushing your revenue on that side, knowing what's going on in the market, and then like Neil said, knowing your numbers, being able to analyze the financials and having some tools to really dig in sooner than later, is imperative.
No, I'd say you hit it right on the head. The one thing that I'd say is people need to understand their way around financial statements. And, because that's probably the best way to keep people honest is understanding the product, which the financial reports are a product that the property management company is giving you. So as an asset manager, you need to make sure, hey, are we trending towards what we had in a pro forma? Right. And if not, you need to understand where's the gaps at, and how do you kind of get back to where you need to be? So, now you're already getting blown up on those books, man. We might, so afterwards, man, you make sure, don't forget to put those in there, man. That's a great tips, right?
Yeah. If you want a book, reach out to Ben. He's selling them at a 20% premium. He'll get you.
Whoa. No, I mean, I didn't even know about those. That's a great tip,
No, I agree. Actually, I had the same.
I'm going to go buy them,
Well, actually, I have a question really quick since Jackie kind of hit on this. And I think this is a question a lot of people ask. Is it easier to push revenue or to trim expenses, right?
Ooh.
Push revenue.
And why is the other thing. Because I think a lot of people assume, and I see this now that we do, we have the management company, we do third-party management, and, a lot of times, I mean, expenses, you can spend so much effort and maybe trim 5% of expenses, right? Now, I guess I don't want to take the answer, so I'll let you answer that, Jackie, I guess, or Neil, both of you.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Ferris. I mean, you can trim expenses, but there's only so much. You got utilities, your reoccurring costs, but revenue can make a huge impact. Rents, auxiliary income, all kinds of other things. It's always easier to push on the revenue side and, stay focused there. And not that we don't stay focused on expenses, we do, but revenue is always going to be easier.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It's very easy to push rents when the market's good, even when the market is mediocre. Expenses are different. There are some things outside of your control, insurance, taxes, utilities, out of your control to some extent on utilities in terms of increases. And there's always going to be that one resident that leaves you a nice little $5,000 turn because they just had to remove all the walls or something ridiculous. So it's definitely easier to raise revenue than it is to reduce expenses.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great question too, because I mean, like at the end of the day, a lot of people think that, oh, it's just, let's just not pay this, or why are we doing that? And really, I mean, you're looking at it short-sightedly, right? Because you could try to squeeze juice out of that turnip, right? But that can only go so far, right? Whereas if you can kind of push that rent, revenue cures a lot of problems in this business, and it's a lot easier to push that than it is to try to trim those expenses. So, all right. So moving along. All right. So I'm going to ask the question. So if you're trying to manage the property management company, right? So once again, our audience is a lot of folks that are looking to get into the business, or they're in the business, right? And starting with you, Neil, as an asset manager, what are the 3 things that you're looking for each month to make sure that the property management company is going in the right direction? I mean, there's definitely some metrics that people can kind of extrapolate out of the financial reports, or the weekly reports, to kind of make sure that things are moving in the right direction.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the top 3 for me personally is traffic, leasing, and collections. Traffic, leasing, and collections, because that translates to, traffic and leases translates to heads and beds. That translates to collections. So, you want to constantly monitor that the level of traffic is staying consistent and increasing, and that leasing is following suit as well. And post-COVID, of course, what are those collections like? What are the collection efforts? So those would be the top 3 things for me. Okay. Same question, Jackie. Anything additional to that? I mean, that's probably it's a good top 3.
Yeah, I mean, if it was me, I'd focus on lease trade out. I mean, drilling into are they achieving the rents that they're telling me they're achieving? What's the retention? I mean, are they renewing residents? Are we getting increases? Are we having high turnover? So that's a big thing. And the other thing is that how well are they leasing units? Pre-leasing units. Are we doing the fire sale thing? So I think turnover, lease trade out, and then.
And what's lease trade out for people that don't know?
The lease trade out is, for example, and I got to tell you, I get on a lot of calls, and I'm shocked that asset managers don't ask. What's the new rent? This was the old rent that the resident was paying. A new person comes in, they're paying this rent. How much did I get? This was the old rent that the renewal was paying. Now they're paying this. So how much more am I getting from my old lease to my last lease? Are we moving forward? Is my loss to lease going down?
Love it.
And maybe on that same vein, though, a slightly different question. What are questions people don't ask their management company that they should ask, right? Because I think, Ben and I, we've been burned in the past. There's a reason we started our management company, right? And we know the things that we should have asked that we didn't, right? And so I'm quite from you all, like, what are some good questions to ask to really peel back the onion, right? Leasing, traffic, those are the most obvious things, but what else on a little bit of a deeper level? And maybe I'll seed it with a quick story from something Neil told me, and I thought it was a great idea, which is, you go on site, right? Sure, everybody knows you're coming, but ask for the last 5 move-in, the move-in condition reports, right? And see what are tenants saying about the quality of the unit that they're moving into. Did the management company actually turn the unit to a condition that is ready to go, or is it just subpar and they're like, there's a hole here, there's this or that, right? That's something the managers aren't going to fake, right? That's real data from the tenant. So, curious what you all, what are the examples of things that people should be asking or checking for the management company?
Neil, you want to take that one first?
I already stole the answer Neil wanted to give.
I think at the very beginning, the question you want to ask the management company is, would you like a copy of my pro forma and my business plan?
shove in your drawer.
I would agree.
Actually, they should ask, a good management company will ask you those questions. But, and Jackie will, Jackie knows this herself, but your property management company should always be able to answer your questions, whether it's good or bad. So, let's just say you're on a weekly call and traffic has decreased. Why is traffic decreased? Okay. And I'll give you an example. A good property management company should be able to say, you know what? We just leased up all our 2-bedroom, 1.5-bath townhomes, which is our high demand units. If you look at our phone traffic, it stayed the same. But once we told people we didn't have that unit type, they weren't interested in another unit type. That's a property management company that is diligent and minding the key metrics, minding their performance, right? So, some of the other questions is always, again, on a weekly report, look at your traffic sources and, is XYZ traffic bringing in a lot of people? If they are, then, and if they're not leasing, then why aren't they leasing? Why are we using this source if these people aren't leasing, right? So there's a 1,000 different questions you can ask in a lot of different scenarios.
That's true. That's true. It's a loaded question, man.
Well,
Jackie.
yeah.
Anything else to add?
Jackie?
We're a sales business. At the end of the day, when you're in retail, they want to know, what's the inventory, what do we sell? I think it's the same thing with property management. How many people walked in the door, and how many people do you sell, and why not? The other thing I would say is, do you understand the section of the property management agreement that says you can't approve over a certain amount of expense without getting our approval? Where are your open purchase orders? All my invoices getting in? Never fails. You take over a company and $100,000 of invoices coming after it. They don't stay on top of the purchasing and the invoice process, and they dig a real big hole. We have a hard time having clients get out of it. So what is their process? What's the accountability for monitoring expenses and pushing revenue?
Yeah, Jackie, should we tell them about the time that you and I went hunting for see-through desks so that managers could stop hiding bills?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm going to e-procurement now. They're going to bypass. So.
Yeah.
The wild, wild west of property management, All right, so we'll keep it on a little bit of a lighter note, and then I know we are starting to get some questions in, and I encourage everybody to, if you've got questions, this is the time to ask. These are the experts in the business. This is a kind of a black box subject in our business, so ask these folks. So let's talk about the toughest deals, right? I know both of you guys have told both me and Ferris some war stories. Neil, tell us a funny story, man. It doesn't have to either be asset manager or property manager. One of the two.
Okay. So,
Crazy.
Which story do you want? The severed gazelle head left in an apartment, the guy that blew himself up in a car in the parking lot, the guy who used to dress like a woman and dance for the landscapers on the 3rd floor. I can go on for days.
It's called As the Unit Turns. It's a bit of a...
Oh my God. I love that. All right. So you got 1,000 stories, right? Jackie, anything funny or anything crazy that's happened over the last 25 years that you want to share?
Oh, yeah. Good story. Where do you start? Let's see. The dominatrix, she paid her rent always on time. The big cross in the apartment. She didn't want to take him to her house. Eric and I found some voodoo dolls of us in a residence apartment one time. That wasn't
interesting.
There's just all, Ridgecrest Terrace was one of our properties where they built a moat, to catch people running across the property. So, there's just so many stories of.
Well, no, the funny one, and you kind of alluded to this at our conference this other weekend, right? It was the, it was a senior living place. And the hookers would troll the old guys,
Yes. Yeah, I go downtown Dallas, beautiful place, and walk in the halls, and my manager looked at Mr. Johnson and said, "Hey, Mr. Johnson, I saw Sparkle here last night. Don't you spend all my rent money?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" They come over at the first of the month when the checks come, and they I'm like, "Oh, please." Yeah. So yeah, there's
So senior living, apparently everybody is kind of a crazy territory to be managing stuff in. I was told some of these stories the other week, and I was dying laughing. So we won't get into them. Some of them are X-rated, but it's
Hey, you gotta laugh, you definitely
gotta laugh.
Yeah.
uh,
Jackie gets the funny stuff. I get the fugitive jumping out the second floor window as the SWAT team is chasing him.
No, I think Ridgecrest, my best was the two ladies fighting on the top rail of the property and the rail breaking. They both weighed a good 300, 400 pounds, and one landed on the other one and, unfortunately killed her. And I got sued by her dad that had been in prison for 50 years, the kids, the boyfriend. But that rail should have held. Absolutely should have held.
You max out the poundage on that one,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was
All right, so let's go through some questions then, because this is the funnest part of it, and I encourage everybody to ask some questions. This is the time to do it, right? All right, just starting from the top. Mary says, "This one's for you, Neil. What were those books again?"
Yeah.
He'll drop them in the chat box, but and then Mary will ask, "What about the books? Where's the class at?" So I think it was IREM, right?
IREM.org, and whatever state you're in, just our city, find your local apartment association as well.
All right. So we'll start off with Neil on this one. I'd be interested in your decision criteria for choosing third-party management versus hiring your own staff, right? And I think you guys have both been on both sides of that, worked for third-party, work for owner operators. I'm assuming Tony's probably debating on hiring somebody versus hiring staff on his own and trying to manage this thing on his own. What's your thoughts on that, Neil?
Really it depends on how many units you have, what type of staff you can afford. The benefits. Okay, so the benefits of a third-party property management company is a lot of the liability for staying up to date on fair housing, FTC practices, EEOC, OSHA, EPA, all that compliance is on their shoulders, not yours, right? Because they're the agent, they represent you, they are the experts. So that's one of the benefits. The other thing, and Anton actually corrected me on this quite some time back, because I had a bad habit of saying property management's not rocket science, but because Jackie and I have done it 23, 24 years, no, it's not rocket science. And we went through this exercise, and Ben and Ferris can attest to this. When they were building out Disrupt Management and pulling management in-house, the number one thing that the lender was concerned with, really the only thing they really wanted to know, was who on your team knows how to run these things? How long have they been doing it?
They would not have been happy with Ben and Ferris are going to try to do it on their own. That wouldn't have been an acceptable answer.
Yeah. And so, but if you're looking at, hey, I've got one or two deals and I want to manage the staff directly. You really got to think about it. Do you have the time to handle all the accounting functions, the human resource functions, plus continue to network to raise equity and source deals, right? You really got to look at highest and best use of your time.
100% agree. Jackie, anything to add to that?
It's pretty much that. It's really the human capital. What kind of happens is that, you get logged down in the operations. You're not able to, look at it from a strategic standpoint. And also the experience level, there's a lot of different levels. Marketing person, being up to speed on all the latest, greatest, online social media, reputation management, integration items that you have to have. Operating the property. Also, you're doing it yourself and you lose somebody, you have a hiccup, everything changes. Do you have the bandwidth to recruit, get good people? Lots of times, get good, superstars. They want a company that's vibrant and that's growing. Be an individual owner, you might not get that best talent. I really think that, it has its pros and cons, and you guys have had so many bad experiences. Everybody thinks about it. I can do it better myself. But it's definitely, I've had many guys and they come back and it's not as easy as it looks, but it takes a lot of effort. And I think that the bad end of that is that really your investment and your asset management piece, is going to suffer unless you have the bandwidth to do that.
Yeah, let me just tell you, property management, I told this to Ben and Ferris a couple of weeks ago while we were having coffee. Jackie will agree. Property management is death by 1,000 paper cuts.
It
That's
definitely
what it is.
it's a tough business, and it's different, folks, than the business that you're trying to get into or you're already in, right? Which is buying deals, raising money. It is a totally different business.
Yeah.
You know, and I think Jackie, you kind of touched on it, right? You know, that and Neil, you said the same thing. That will take away from you looking for your next deal because you're dealing with that day-to-day property management functions, right? And you will get bogged down.
Yeah.
And so that's something, you know, that everybody needs to think about, you know, and ultimately I would always suggest that have enough scale too, to make it worth your while, right? You know, if it's your first deal, second deal, you know, try to find that right third-party property management company until you have a few deals where it makes sense. You have enough revenue coming in where you can get some good talent in there, because otherwise you're gonna create a big mess on your hands, right? All right, so we're now getting some questions in. So Amanda asks, have you seen any changes to other income, either quantity or changes to what people are wanting / willing to pay for either as a result of COVID as an organic change to the market? Amanda, all right. So have you seen any changes to other income? All right, so I guess she's mainly focusing on other income. Has that changed, you know, because of COVID? I mean, I know rents kind of stalled out in most areas, you know, they kind of went flat. Are you seeing any changes on the other income side?
I mean, for us, you know, getting into things like, you know, package fees. I mean, people are at home more, you know, there's a lot more boxes, there's not a lot more deliveries. So, you know, things of that nature. On the other income side, people are working from home, shared space, things of that nature. So, you know, because rents have gone flat, we've had to get creative as it relates to, you know, we're doing, you know, preferred parking or premium parking, or because a lot of people are home. So now they're willing to pay for premium parking that maybe is not covered, or, you know, a carport because they want to be closer to their unit. So I think, you know, the shared space, parking, package fees, things like that, are things that have become revenue generators.
Okay. Neil, same question, man. Have you seen any drastic changes on that, you know, or anything additional to what you could charge?
No, I mean, Jackie made a great point. You know, what I saw is people who were paying for reserved parking or covered parking when they lost their jobs, they pulled back and said, hey, I don't want it. But then it was taken up by somebody who had to work from home, and, you know, now they wanted that covered spot.
Yeah.
Obviously, you know, residents are going to start pulling back just like we did as property owners. Cash becomes king. You got to start sitting on reserves. But really have not seen a huge drop. And I mean, even some of the deals that we put on my acquisitions had, you know, the only really thing I'm seeing is in late fee collection, right? Which kind of coincides with rent collection for people who can't pay.
Yeah. I was also going to add, you know, pets, you know, becoming more and more popular, right? You know, with renters. And I think, you know, pet fees and introducing creative ways that you can, you know, not only extract fees, but also add as amenities to your property too, is something that, you know, obviously will fall into that other income category. You know, and I don't think that was necessarily because of COVID, but, you know, it's becoming more and more popular as the years go by.
We've definitely seen that on the rise, and people have been, you know, they're up to like, you know, charging $20, $25 for pet rent. Where they were charging lower. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So Edward asks, what is the best bang for the buck marketing strategies? So, you know, I'll go ahead and start with Jackie. What would you say, you know, some good cost-effective marketing strategies are these days?
Online, you know, get a great website, virtual tours. It doesn't have to be professional. You can get a stick and a phone, a stabilizer. Everything needs to be video, and having a strong, you know, online presence is big. And that doesn't mean apartments.com. It means, you know, Craigslist, a good website, social media, Facebook Marketplace, Facebook groups, really honing in on the social media and being able to respond quickly is really key to being successful in that area.
Absolutely. Neil, same question, buddy.
Take care of your residents. They'll stay and they'll refer their friends. That's about the cheapest marketing you can pay for.
Word of mouth, man. I love it.
But, you know, like Jackie said, I wouldn't necessarily call knock marketing, but it's a great tool to track your marketing. I mean, it's been Ferris, you guys have seen the results when it was implemented. Obviously, website. Jackie, you made a great point earlier. Apartments.com is not always, the way to go. It really is more market dependent, more asset class dependent. I mean, you find in some of these tertiary markets where the local Facebook rent group, right, is a great source of traffic. So you got to know your market, you got to know your asset and your demographic. I mean, I honestly took a deal from 74% occupied to 93 by simply having the staff deliver goodie baskets to all the local businesses. Now, this was in the early 2000s before websites and everything were the big deal. But literally with spending $80 at Sam's on a bunch of goodies and taking them to leaving the break room of local businesses, we got the occupancy up that way.
I would say that in certain markets that still works too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so yeah, I mean, obviously with COVID things have kind of changed, but I would say post-COVID that's still probably going to be the case, right? I mean, who doesn't like some donuts or kolaches or something in the morning, right? All right, so we got another question in here. What's the best way to exit your current management company to move to another one? So I'm just going to go ahead and answer this one because I've done it 5 times. Everybody kind of gets caught up on this. Well, I get a 30-day clause, and what happens in those 30 days, right? You fire them, you take over management day 1, you pay them the 30 days worth of the management fee, because if you let them manage your property for those next 30 days, it is going to go from bad to worse. And they're probably going to take all the staff and you're going to be left in an even worse position than you were already at. So just pay them off, get them out. That's pretty customary in our business. But you got a plan too, right? I mean, it's not like just have some knee-jerk reaction. Let's fire everybody. Have all this planned out. Have the other management company ready to take over that same day. And there'll be a little bit of shock and awe, and people might be, a little bit shell-shocked. But at the end of the day, that's the best thing that you can do for your property is cut that limb off quick and get the new people in. So would there be anything else, Neil, you want to add to that?
No, I mean, we were shoulder to shoulder on that deal. And if they're performing, if you've got a management company that's just performing that bad that you have to make a change, don't give them another 30 days to tank your asset more than they already have.
Absolutely.
It hurts, guys. It hurts. It's painful. It's time consuming. It's a headache. But it's the best thing you can do is to get a bad management company out and bring your own people in, or bring in a very good, solid, reputable company.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we got another question. How are your property managers compensated? Salary plus bonus? For bonuses, what KPIs do you have them meet for the bonus? So I'll give this one to Jackie, right? I mean, I think every deal is different, right? But what's customary, right, in terms of, the staff and their compensation package?
I mean, usually, but for managers, it's going to be salary, and then they do have bonuses. So there's renewal and leasing bonuses, which are kind of shared with all the staff. But you have a controllable NOI bonus that you key as a KPI that you want them to watch. And then for us, depending on what we're trying to achieve. So, for example, right now we want 100%, electronic invoices, 100% online payments. We set specific targets, and we bonus people based off of what our objectives are for a particular quarter. But typical salary and a controllable NOI bonus.
Love it. Neil, anything else to add to that one?
Yeah, so, in terms of management fees, it's going to depend on the deal size, typically 3 to 5%. The larger the deal, the smaller the management fee. On-site staff, right? They've got their salaries. Some of the bonus structures you'll see, like Jackie mentioned, of course, are leasing bonuses. Renewals, that's typically split amongst the staff. There could be collection bonus. And, you do have these owners that if they're wanting to achieve certain objectives, they may kind of throw a little, throw a little carrot in there as well. On the back end, there's usually a stay bonus when you're trying to sell the deal. So that way you don't lose any staff. You want the people, you don't want anybody walking out the door on you just because they know the deal's for sale. So you want to incentivize people to stay through the end of the, I'm waiting for somebody right now to come on board because they committed to staying. And I've got another 30 days. So state bonuses are a thing as well.
Yeah, I mean, and it could be, those could be healthy bonuses too, right? Because ultimately when we sell these properties, that's when a lot of people make money. So, that's something that I wasn't really aware of, but now that I look back 6 years, ago, it seems like, hey, that's just common sense stuff. But at the time, nobody told me that. I just did that on my own. But come to find out that that's really something that people should be doing, right? Because there could be adverse effects to not compensating. People are just going to be like, all right, I'm looking for my next job. Once they find their next job, they leave, and then the property performance goes down, and then you ultimately can't sell the deal. You can't sell it for as much as you wanted to. So that's a great one that you brought up. I'm glad that you brought that up, man.
It adds on leasing bonuses, make it in accordance with the rent. I mean, a lot of people just do one size, you get a certain dollar no matter what the rent is. Tag it to what it's going to be. I mean, are we achieving the higher performer rents? And if so, you compensate them a little bit more for those leases. And if they're not, a little bit less.
All right, so we're getting a lot more questions here. So what are the top qualities to be the best asset manager versus the best property manager? So Jackie, why don't you take that one? They might be one and the same in some cases, right? But what are some qualities that you would look for in an asset manager? What's some qualities you look for in a good property manager?
Oh, golly. Communication, availability, transparency. I think those are probably key. I mean, hardworking, follow through. I mean, it's all of those things, but I think it all ties back to, communication and, transparency for the management side. Asset management, it's all about the numbers. Their goal is to hit your investment strategy. So for investment, they've got to be focused on the numbers and not get lost in operations.
Love it. Neil, anything to add?
I'm gonna agree with Jackie on communication, but I'll also add on both sides leadership skills, because you are leading a team, you're driving people, you're pushing people to step outside, their comfort zone. Jackie can tell you there's a lot on the property management side. There are a lot of people who just want to clutch their purse and they think, okay, well, we're 97, we're doing great. It's like, well, we can make a lot more money if we were 94 and we just bump the rents up. You've got to really push people outside of their comfort zone, and you won't do that by browbeating people. You've got to be a good leader and you've got to communicate effectively.
Yeah. Don't be satisfied with the status quo ever.
Yeah. And I would say also being organized. There's a ton of things that are happening, and you have to be organized on both both property management as well as asset management, just to add to that. All right, so moving along, what incentive bonus structure for the property manager works in practice? All right, we kind of already talked about that. Is there a list somewhere of best practices for high resident satisfaction and retention? I don't know, maybe take one. What would be a good resident retention, idea that you have, Jackie, and then I'll throw it to y'all.
I mean, yeah, there's definitely lots of lists out there, but it all depends on the type of the property. I mean, what's important to that particular resident. I mean, if I, a different profile of resident, they want different things. I have some properties that want, the Nest thermostats or, the high tech items. That's not important to my other properties. I mean, do you have a playground? What are the resident functions? So I think, you do your resident survey, find out what's important to your residents, and you deliver.
Love it. Neil, yep. Same question.
As counterintuitive as this is going to sound, residents just want to come home and make sure everything works and be left the hell alone. I'm sorry, they really do. It's their home, it's their sanctuary. It doesn't matter the asset class. People are paying about 28 to 30% of their income to live there. And if you want to keep them happy, basically 24-hour work order service, right? And Jackie can attest to this. I mean, you got to have a damn good property manager on site to get more than 20 people out to a resident function. You really do. Residents want to come home, have everything work, have it fixed quick, and not get any bogus BS notices about they didn't pay rent when they did. They just want to be able to live because that's their sanctuary.
Yeah, it seems so simple too, man. And
take care of them and keep the property.
That's the best way to get retention, right? Is you're doing what you're saying you got to do, right? All right, so we got a few more questions, and I know we're running short on time, so I'm just going to kind of blow through these. Can somebody explain syndication to me? we can certainly do that, on maybe a breakout. I'm sure somebody would be willing to talk about that. What about emotional support animals versus pets? Can't get pet rent and deposit. I'm assuming that's maybe a no. I don't know. There's a lot of emotional support animals these days. It seems like everybody has one.
I had a pony one time, actually a miniature horse on a senior property.
Nice.
Yeah, we get some of those, but it's unique,
And you can't charge them pet rent? Nope. All right. Any property where frozen pipe damage is higher than deductible? I think that's once again case by case. I think that just depends on the insurance policy. On that question, how many doors do you need to move from third party to on-site or dedicated property manager? So let me take this one, because we've had this question asked several times, and everybody's probably gonna have a little bit of variation, right? We were told 1,500 doors, makes sense, right? But I think it's ultimately how much revenue is coming in, right? There's back office staff that you're gonna have to pay for, right? And that's coming out of your property management fees. So you need to kind of do some back of the napkin analysis and realize, hey, can I afford somebody to run this for me? Can I afford an accounting department? Can I afford a regional manager? Because those are corporate staff, not on-site staff, which is paid by the property. So that's something that's, probably personal to each person's portfolio. But we were always told around 1,500 units. If that's a correct number, who knows, right? So that's my 2 cents on that question. At what size would you recommend having a live on-site manager? This is a question, and I'll ask Jackie this one. What's the ratio? There is a little bit of a math here, right? Depending on unit size, 100 units, is it one person in, one person out? Kind of give everybody the ratio of what you kind of look at.
The rule of thumb is 100 units, one person in, one person out. But I can tell you that with COVID now, we've really looked at unique ways of pooling staff, but we definitely have looked at some efficiencies, and I think there's going to be some different ways to do things in the future. So,
okay. And I think online leasing is going to not necessarily negate a leasing agent, but it's probably going to minimize that role. At some properties.
Yeah, you have a rock star that handles 3 properties versus 1, and everybody's doing online leasing now of every profile. So it's not like it used to be a certain profile does it. Everyone does it.
All right. So knowing what you know now, do you wish you started your property management company earlier? Absolutely. So it has definitely not been a walk in the park, but it's something that we probably should have done 2 years ago. But you don't know what you don't know, right? So hindsight's always 20/20. When onboarding a new property, is there a fee involved? I'm not really quite sure what that question's all about. I'm assuming, obviously, there's always a property management fee. Sometimes for the first month, especially on a takeover, that might be waived. But I don't know if any, other than due diligence, which is kind of a standalone service that a property management company could charge for. I don't know of any other additional fees involved.
What I think people need to be aware of is when you're changing management companies, there's probably not going to be a quote unquote onboarding fee, but the property is going to be expected to pay for the new licensing fee, for the new software program that they're on, all new background and drug tests for the on-site staff. So it also costs, right? It does cost you to change management companies as well.
Yeah, you definitely have to bake that in, right? It's not a free thing. It's gonna be painful for probably the next 3 months too. So people need to realize that too. Jackie, you brought up a great point. There will miraculously be invoices that are found in people's drawers and hadn't been input, and that will get lumped onto your lap very quickly when you can the last guy or gal. All right. So Amanda asks, what are some things that property owners can do to help you be more successful at your role and improve the performance of the property? So Neil, question for you, man.
So I said it before, I'll say it again. A successful property begins with the underwriting. So, ensure that you've really got your underwriting tight, that the numbers are realistic, right? And then at a point when you engage the property management company, it should be, a partnership, really. It should be. It is a partnership, and that property management company should be able to execute your pro forma. All owners are different. I've had people that were on their first deal, and it was like having a toddler, because it was why, and that's great, because they're learning, right? And they're asking the relevant questions. They're asking insightful questions. It's okay to be a student. It's okay to learn. Just ask the questions. Some of the things that owners can do, I don't have to say it without sounding like a jerk, but really educate yourself. Take those apartment association classes. See what it's like. See what life is like in the day of a property manager, right? Take the IRM courses. Know that asset management part, and help us take care of your asset. If you've got a great property management company, they are communicating everything to you, right? And look, let's face it. I don't have $1 million sitting in the bank. So if something goes wrong at one of my properties, I'm going to have to move some money around if I've got to put in a new boiler, right? And that's probably the case with a lot of us here. So as long as there's great communication, as long as you can provide them what they need, not what they tell you they need, but what they really need, and just keep that communication flowing. And then you don't have to be a jerk about it. But if they're not meeting your expectations, if you're not getting the answers that you want from them, if you're not sure, if you're not clear on the answer, keep asking. It's okay. It's their job to answer your questions.
I agree. Jackie, anything to add to that?
I mean, yeah, you're not an interruption. I mean, that's for sure. So I think what they can do is help is get on the same page with your supervisor or the corporate office. It really helps when an owner goes out there and the supervisor, they're all on the same page of what are the 3 goals. So when they go out there, they're not diluting the focus if they're out on site. They're all on the same page. And keep in mind that the on-site people have limited access to an owner. So when those heavy communications come down, they take them very heavy. So have the tough conversations with the corporate individuals. Let's keep everybody on the same page and moving in the right direction to keep those teams focused.
And I would add, remember that the people that work on site, they work for the property management company, right? If you go to the on-site manager and ask directly, he or she's going to freeze up on you. They're not going to tell you anything, right? They're going to give you a quick, short answer, and then they're going to call the regional and go, hey, Ben just called me. Are we getting fired, right? It's not that good.
I'm not that scary, am I? Come on.
Here's an example. No, actually, you have, Ben had a completely different approach, which was Ben was always more concerned with making sure the people on site liked him than he was with making sure the regional manager liked him. Because
that's where the rubber meets the road, man.
Pocket, right? You want that on-site staff to be open and honest and communicating with you. You want your regional, you want everybody to tell you the truth, good, bad, or ugly, right? Yeah. But get that on-site staff to love you.
You do, and keep everybody in the loop, because I've had occasions where I've had to let somebody go, and they say, you fired her. You got to make sure that that relationship is there, that you keep everybody on the same page. So forming those relationships, building them up is really important, but also making sure that that doesn't give them a go around as it relates to the management company. Because again, if singular focus all on the same page is most effective. With an owner and on-site people. I mean, Ben, you're really good at doing that, building them up, having those positive things, and then bringing the hammer down on the other side.
Save your negative criticism from when you're away from the on-site.
Okay, so for everybody's benefit, the reason that I do that, right? The regionals tend to be more experienced, more polished, right? And they tend to have that salesperson mentality where everything's all right, everything's good, rosy, They
know what not to say.
They know what not to say, right? Whereas if you go and you're asking the maintenance guys, hey, so what's eating your lunch? Oh, I can't get parts, or this dang thing keeps breaking down, and you'll get the real what's going on really at the property, right? But I'm not trying to do that to the detriment of, going, over and stepping on anybody's toes. That's more so just to kind of get, a quick update on what's really happening.
You got to do that as an owner. The dog and pony show will not work. So you got to, my thought is, that's your investment, and you've got to stay on top of it. So I definitely most of them haven't even seen their owners. Have owners out there and interested in listening to them, and you finding out what's going on is imperative because.
And as an owner, if you're having weekly calls, you want the property manager on that weekly call along with the regional.
Yep.
It definitely, it helps.
Yeah.
Right?
But as an owner, I'd say there's pluses and minuses to it too, right? Then it becomes hard to talk about staffing issues. So something to keep in mind.
Yeah.
Once a month after financials, or twice a month, even bringing the maintenance person, after and bringing them. I think is important because you get the whole picture.
Agreed. All right. So just because in the interest of time, I'm going to kind of blow through we got 3 more questions here. Can a property management company provide a marketing report and what's included in that? Kathy, I'm not quite sure what you mean by a marketing report. We certainly can provide CoStar reports. Most legit property management companies are going to have access to that type of data. I'm not quite sure if that's what you mean by that, but I'll go ahead and answer that one. We're back to asking about the horse as a as a service animal. Can you raise their rent instead? Jay, I don't know, man.
And let's do one more question, Ben, and let's call it wrap. I know we're way over time. I want to be respectful of people's time.
So yeah, I mean, we'll come back to that one, Jay. In what scenarios should you hire a professional third-party asset manager? Neil, why don't you chime in on this one and we'll go ahead and wrap up, man.
Yeah, so the average asset manager salary for a qualified, degreed asset manager is going to be in the 110 to 120 a year, and that's just for an asset manager. That's not for VP of asset management, right? So, if you don't have enough income from your properties throwing off asset management fees and income to afford someone like that, that's when you need to use a third-party company.
Agreed. Well, hey, wanted to thank Jackie Jackson, Neil Bertrand. Thank you very much. Don't forget to put your contact information in the chat box if you would.
Gotta have the names of the books, Neil. Don't forget the book.
Don't forget those. Don't forget that, man.
All right. Well, thank you both very much. Definitely appreciate a wealth of information. For those of you that have never attended one of these calls, right, we'll do a breakout session here coming up, right? So breakout room, networking is the biggest part of multifamily. It really is. The best way to go further is networking, getting to know somebody. And so we're big proponents of that. And, getting to meet people and getting to know them is something valuable, right? It helps you grow your business. And so, we decided to basically, and I think we were like the first to kick this off. Now it became the norm and everybody's doing it, but, basically doing breakout sessions, right? So what we'll do is basically break up the entire audience, right? We have about 55 people still on, right? And break it up into groups of about 6-7 people, right? Get to know some other people, tell them, what you're doing, where you are, what your favorite food is, what your favorite vacation destination is, right? You figure out, is there a dynamic there? Is there a way to mesh with this person? And that turns into something, right? Like that's how I met Ben, right? I met him at a meetup event networking. And so you never know who you may meet. People turn into partners, investors, friends, and everything else and above. So big proponents of that. Neil, Jackie, thank you all very much. Hopefully y'all stick around. If not, not a problem. And maybe some people will get to, talk to Neil and Jackie and ask them some of the questions that they didn't get to. So with that said, we'll kick off a quick breakout.
Well, real quick, because somebody did have this question. So you can save the chat, it's those 3 dots right next to the message box there. You can save it to your desktop. So, for everybody's benefit.
So perfect. So with that said, I'm going to kick it off into a breakout. We'll go for about 10 minutes and then we'll come back and do one more round and leave people to linger as long as they want after that. And so with that said, we will see you guys here in a minute.
Thanks, Neil. Thanks, Jackie.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.